Alright guys, welcome to part 2 of the dual battery setup. This will be the final video too. So in the last video we installed the actual dual battery, got the box mounted on the side of the ute, and the battery lives in here. So basically just the foundations to allow us to set up the system. So it's a 100 amp hour battery. And yeah, so now today we're going to mount this utility box which I made. I don't know if it's a utility box, but power box, probably around there. And yes, it will stick out, but only very slightly. And yeah, so that'll allow us to have all sorts of doodads. So this I've made up myself. So what it is this panel I bought. So this comes complete with the switches all wired into each other. You just got to wire them into where they go. So on the back here, actually, I'll open it up and I'll actually show you what's inside. Alrighty, so what's under the veil? Wires. So basically what's going on, I don't like these sharp edges. It's one thing I'm not a fan of. Worried they'll clip somewhere, but basically most of this came wired, pre-wired. So it all uses one feed, so one power feed coming in, which is this one here, running through a 30 amp fuse. Every single outlet is fused. So there's fuses going to every single port. They're just 10 amp fuses at the moment. I'll change them if need be. And it all runs through this 300 amp switch, which isolates the box, which allows it to power up. Then there's a single earth coming in. One of these earths actually, one of them's going to these 3 plugs. So that's why there's 2 coming up, and goes into the earth, which feeds all these earths. And then the other one coming in goes to this cord here, which will be the main power and earth, which will plug in down on the power box down here. So that's what's inside. So everything's been siliconed, so it should be relatively waterproof. A bit sloppy, but she'll do the job. So all up I spent about $60 making this, when alternatives are, easily getting up towards a couple of $100. So I've saved a lot of money making this myself, and I know how it all works. Everything's fused, so I know what to do if anything goes out. I'll put it back together quickly and then I'll show you what each switch does, but basically I don't need to put it together to show you that. So these 3, ignore the labels, they're just random labels at the moment. So these 3 switches here, 1, 2, 3, control these Anderson plugs in order. So left is left, middle is middle, right is right. And then these 2 control these 2 wires here, which will be little lights mounted up here. And left switch is left light, right switch will be the right light. Pretty straightforward stuff. And then this Anderson plug here is running on a whole separate line, and that'll plug into a solar controller, which I'm going to put into this box somewhere. If I can find a spot, probably up in there somewhere. Might have to take the battery back out and do some playing around with that. But yeah, that's what's going to happen up there. Is there'll be a solar controller on that back wall, and what that'll allow me to do is put a solar panel on an Anderson plug. So bang, when it's up there, that will charge the battery, which means when you're camping, I can have a portable or fixed solar panel depending on whatever direction I want to go. Just plug it into there and she'll be good to go. So yeah, there's the back. Pretty straightforward stuff, but it is what it is. I like it. Just while we're here, you saw it on the last video, but let's say bye to this guard and put a box there, eh? Done deal. So that's that side done. Now time to get onto the batteries. Alrighty, so now I'm making a bracket based off these 4 holes. It's gonna go like that. So I've drawn my first line for the cut, if you can see that. And then that is gonna mount something like that, just on this backboard here, and I'll weld it up onto these. Should be pretty good. There's the first part of my mount. I'll just give it some tacks and then we'll finish her up. Alright, so she's a bit hot still. Yeah, so that is going to go like that. So all the lines line up pretty good. Just got to nail the angle. Just like that. Everything lines up. Then drop the welds in and weld it to the backboard. Here she is, finished up. I mean, it's not a fucking fabricator's weld, but it is a driveway weld, and they're not bad. I mean, I did see there's a little bit of porosity, but apart from that, that's pretty solid. They're not bad, and it fits my purpose, which is the most important bit. So now, take this piece and we're going to weld it up here. Something like that maybe. I just realised I might even just do it like that. Yeah, that could do it. Alrighty, yeah, something like that. Alrighty, so that's where she'll sit. So I'll drop some welds in the back. See that? Yeah, in the back there. Running probably 2 fat welds, that'll do it. Lovely, so I got everything ready to go. Alrighty, so she's welded. I've just given it a bit of a touch-up job. Same with some of the headboard. It's just a few spots where the paint's rubbed off and a bit of surface rust was coming through. But yeah, this little bracket I made, she'll work mint. Gonna go have some lunch, let that all dry, then we'll go cracking into some wiring. Alright, well I've just had some lunch, gonna let that dry, let that backboard dry a little more. So I've just made up these, I've cut holes, cut these to size, put some holes in these elbow pieces. So these will go to mount my mud flaps. So these are going to sit like that. They're just going to be pop riveted on. Lovely. Alrighty, so there she is, little bracket, and the mud flaps on. So everything's up to code now. Sits on a semi-funny angle, but I don't care enough. Yeah. So, do the other side. I just painted these up too. Had a bit of rust coming through. Sanded them all the way back. Gave them a paint. Headboard of paint. Mounts there. Pretty dry now. And pretty strong. So now we got to do this side. But yeah, I'll crack into that now. Alrighty, so we've got our mud flaps on, everything's legit, and I've also mounted the box onto the little mount that I made, so she's rock hard. Yes, I realised what I just said, and then there we go, all mounted up. So now the fun begins of wiring. Sorry, just trying to get that back there. So that'll be left, right, little lights, which we'll do after we wire this all up. So this is the main power. So this will be going down into the box, so will this. And they will, one is solar, one is the main power, so it powers all these switches as well as these USB plugs, voltage meter and cigarette socket. So first things first, we're gonna get an end off this, and actually no we're not, we're going to run this, we're going to find a nice path, run this down, and then any excess, I've got much more of this wire, but any excess I'm going to use to finish wiring the power. So let's get cracking onto that. Okay, so This is wired, so it's not plugged in yet, but she's wired, runs down, follows the chassis along. You can kind of see her back in there, following alongside. There's two of them coming through. So at the moment, this short one coming through is the solar. This longer one is the power for the box. So now I'm gonna probably cut the power to the box somewhere around. I'll run the furthest one, so probably give it about that much. Cut it and wire her in. See if we get power. Let's see how we do. Alrighty, so we've got power running up to our box. Solar controller is not in yet. So that's just going to sit up there for today. It's getting late, so I will elaborate on a future video on that one. But here we go, moment of truth. Here we go. So she worked out alright. So that'll be powering up different bits and bobs. So let's get our multimeter here. Chuck our earth in. Let's test that Anderson plug there. Sorry, a bit hard to do one-handed. So, oh, whoops. Oh yeah, so which one are we testing? Middle one. So when that switches, oh whoops, that switches, there you go, let's switch off, switch on. So yeah, everything works the way it should. Turn her off, laughing. So let's recap. We put wiring through to a dual battery in the back in the first video, where we also installed this box to hold the battery, gave it a mount. Then we put this box on. We also made some brackets for our mud flaps. We made a bracket to hold our box, mounted our box onto our bracket, wired it through, put our wiring through for our solar controller, and that is everything that we're going to do in this video. So I might make a part 3, which will just be a quick little so what else have I got to do? So part 3 will be putting lights up here, so 2 lights on the side, and I'm also going to put some reverse lights, but they will be just running off a relay and the reverse wire. So a reverse wire will go to the relay. When that activates, it'll power the relay, which will take battery from this dual battery, light up every time I go into reverse. But yeah, it's everything for now. Thanks for watching, guys. Vindog out.